and Jill, and we're doing the PurlCast -1 this evening. Lindsay's not feeling very well, so it's all right. We all remember how that is toward the end of your pregnancy. It's kind of horrible. She's ready to be done, and I certainly understand that. So we are missing her this evening, but we're going to go ahead because, you know, the holidays, it's hard to schedule things, and we have a hard time getting all three of us together on the same moment. So Lindsay was gracious enough to say, just go ahead. And so we miss her, but we're going to have to just get it done. So
yes.
All right.
So she might watch.
What?
She might watch.
She might.
She and I had a discussion once about, do you watch or do you not watch? Like yourself on the podcast?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't think she does.
No, she does not.
She might this time, though.
I know, so I could have like snuck in a little bit of Christmas, but she might watch, so I can't sneak in any Christmas.
Or anything.
Anything.
So shout out to Lindsay. We hope you feel better. And we're sorry you're not in our triangle of screen faces.
Right there.
Yeah. So this is kind of the Christmas edition.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Look at those. They're teeny.
I know. So fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They are so teeny.
So my kids, you've been following along my Instagram about Ginger, the elf on the shelf. So we were wondering if we could jam Ginger's feet into here. But Ginger's feet, we'd have to like make tube socks, I think, because, you know, they're
just straight and pointy.
Yeah, and they don't have enough structure to actually like go in and make the turn. There's not enough rigidity.
She could have leg warmers. You could do leg warmers because, like, Ginger, first of all, Ginger is the best dressed elf. If you have not checked her out, she has more knitwear than I do.
Yeah.
Like, handmade closet, that's what, I mean, she's got some cool dress on. And
well, she has a tube top because Ginger's head is too big to, like, make sleeves. I mean, I could have made a cardigan, I guess, but instead I just made tube top with, like, ribbing.
It is.
That I could shinny up from the bottom.
She's got like this dress, and every time you see her, she's styling, you know. She's sitting there in the sleigh and the little elves are on, or she's somewhere else, and she's and styling.
Then the skirt. And then we made this skirt. Yeah. And she hangs out with, if you haven't seen my Instagram, go check it out. She hangs out with the little twin knitted dollies.
Yeah.
Well, they're not twins, they're sisters. They have different colored hair. They're not necessarily twins, but those were from a Knit Picks pattern, I think. If it's still on their website, I'll put a link down below if I can find it. It might have been, I think it's on my project page, and I don't know. I'll have to go.
Well, now the next time you post a picture, you're going to have to post a close-up, because now I want to see the difference between their hair. And kudos to anybody noticed that before.
I don't know. Do you want me to go get them?
Ooh.
I don't know where they are.
Doesn't that wreck their magic? Are they magic like Ginger? Like, you can't. So we have Freight Car in our house.
Freight Car is the name of your elf on a shelf?
Freight Car is the name of our elf because my oldest son, who loved trains, was 3 at the time. And originally he comes with a book, and you read the book, and it's all about how he comes to your house, and then you have to name him. And so he was named Freight Car. So Freight Car is our elf, but if you touch him, he loses his magic. Yeah.
That clearly doesn't happen at our house because Ginger and friends get repositioned every day.
So, well,
I don't do all that. Let me make it clear to the viewers. I do not do all that. We take turns. In a family of 4, we take turns. And so what you see is a different family member's creativity each day because we go round. So right after the day after Thanksgiving when it started, my youngest daughter began. She usually starts, and then the next daughter, and then me, and then my husband. And so we all take turns and rotate around whose turn it is to do whatever.
Oh my gosh, Ginger doing yoga or oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was my cheat day because I'm like, well, I can have everyone do Shavasana. That's easy.
It was awesome. So we have one believer in our house still. So Freight Car still has magic. And I thought I was talking too loud. No. The believer is not in the house right now, so I don't need to whisper.
Okay.
So We have one non-believer and one believer, one older and one younger. And the older one now, that's the fun part for him, because he will move the one. Now, we're not crazy. We don't, I mean, really, our elf doesn't play naughty tricks or do anything like that. He just goes to different places in the house.
We don't really do anything naughty. I mean, so
well, like,
so far.
Some of them, like, he gets in the flower and makes snow angels and that stuff. Our elf doesn't do anything like that. Our elf is pretty, like, the most low-key elf you've ever seen.
We never did flower, but the first year that we did ginger, I remember taking all the little bits of paper out of the shred, and we did like confetti and snow angel stuff with the shred from this paper shredder bits. Yeah.
So you could do flower. My sister-in-law took a picture of the elf and blew it up and then taped it on every family photo in the house.
I've seen that on Pinterest. Oh, that's so funny.
Ours like gets stuck in the tree and stuck on a light, and
we made
stares at you creepily from like some. Yeah. He was in the bathroom once, which really wigged me out.
We made one. Oh, I did that one time. I took toilet paper and made a stack of 3 rolls of toilet paper, and then I made a construction paper nose and eyes, like it was a snowman. And I don't know, we've done several things. My husband's pretty creative with all that. Yeah.
So that will be fun.
Fun.
I think maybe we'll do that, because I am certain this will be the last year for our littlest believer. So that will be fun for next year.
Right, because we started that we didn't even have an elf on the shelf until I think my youngest was probably 10 or 11.
We have had ours for 13 years.
Freight car might need to like grow up and start doing some things. Yeah. Okay, so don't let your
maybe not adult things though.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not bill paying or adult kind of things, right?
Oh,
so I don't think we can fit Ginger's feet into here. And then my other daughter said, "Well, can we put the sweater on Ginger?" And I said, I don't think Ginger's big old head.
So no. So you know what you have to do? You have to do a steek. You have to steek it. You have to like do whatever you need to do to be able to.
And then put a snap or something on the back. I don't know. Or just make a cardigan. I might have to make a cardigan. I don't know.
Ginger is without a doubt the best dressed elf.
So far. Yeah. Ginger might need a wardrobe change for next year.
We'll have to check on Ravelry. I bet there's stuff on Ravelry.
Well, there's plenty of like Barbie clothes to knit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'll have to do that. Okay, so
because the sweaters aren't daunting enough for me. Let's make it in like this big.
Let's make tiny ones. So we're doing currently, I'm dropping socks. Currently, we're doing our ornament knit along. So if you haven't joined the Ravelry group, it's being hosted over there. There's weekly prizes. I talk about that. Just little things, nothing expensive, just stuff I can fit in an envelope. It's not any big deal. It's just fun, So check that out. And then, of course, the knit along beginning January 1st is all about the Mackin for the MRI and raising money for the Shetland Appeal. So watch the podcast with Anne about that, Anne Frost from the I Thought I Knew How podcast. So that's lots of fun. So we're knitting ornaments. But we were going to talk about what do you do when you can't knit? Like our friend Lindsay has some carpal tunnel problems. Lots of
pregnancy-induced carpal tunnel. So we started talking about. She and I started talking. Well, we all started talking about. What do you do when you can't knit when you want to knit? So, really nasty long day at work, and you need a tiny minute brain break. What are the types of things you do? Because she sent me a text one day. She's like, "I'm stalking Ravelry."
That's what you do.
Yes.
And I've started uploading some tutorials about using Ravelry, and Ravelry has an awesome help section with tutorials about like how to put things in your queue, how to put things in your favorites. Do people understand what is the difference between your queue and favorites list? And I think they're used in different ways. So when Ravelry first began, 12, 13 years ago, when it first began, I don't think there was a favorites list. I think it was only the queue. And I think I could be wrong, but I think the intention then was this is the cue. This is the lineup of what I'm going to knit first, second, third, fourth. This is my plan. This is my list of what to knit next. Whereas the favorites are like, I'm going to bookmark this for later.
Yes.
Because you can organize your favorites from what I understand, and I am not very good. I haven't done this. You can organize your favorites in like bundles.
I have not done that. That would be cool. That would be good.
So that'll be something I probably continue with the Ravelry playlist and show people how to organize their favorites. So that's one thing you could do if you're, there's lots of reasons people can't knit. Maybe it's a hand issue, maybe it's arthritis, maybe it's surgery, maybe it's just I don't feel well, or
maybe you're really busy, or at the end of the day, when I'm super duper tired, if I've had a really crazy day at work or whatever, and then come home and do all the home stuff, and then I'm like, and I want to knit, but I'm too exhausted to knit. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, so
unless it's a dishcloth.
Looking at knitting is just about as much fun as knitting. And that's when I find the coolest patterns a lot of times, when I'm just cruising.
It's true. Yeah, right. And so one thing I've been trying to do is I really like having, everybody knows, I like the old school method of the printed pattern. And so that's another thing you could do is get out your 3-ring binder, print all the stuff in your favorites, and then organize it in sleeve protectors with the, the dividers with the tabs. Like I have categories.
Oh, I didn't think of doing that.
I have categories for socks, shawls, hats, sweaters. Put it in your category. And then if you really want to get all OCD about it, put your patterns in alphabetical order within the category.
I never thought of that. I have my binder and I have my stuff in there, but I didn't think about separating it by category. I'm all excited now. I can do it electronically, and I can do it hard copy wise, like on Ravelry, and then.
So one thing I was going to point out is when you take the time to print the old school, the hard copy patterns and put it in the binder, then you're not totally, what am I trying to say? You're not totally messed up.
SOL?
Well, yes, you're not totally SOL when the power goes out. Like what I was thinking of is we had a huge storm around Thanksgiving, and we didn't have power for 4 or 5 hours one morning. And of course, you don't stop knitting. And, there's always a headlamp, right? But unless you're using Knit Companion or whatever, and your devices are charged or your laptop is charged, so having the actual hard copy printed pattern, you're not SOL if the power goes out or your phone is dead or your tablet or whatever it is that you're using. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I guess I'm still, with the paper.
Oh, that one was cute with the gray and the red.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that one.
And so that's this one.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that's called, let's see, it's upside down. It was upside down. This one is called, the Fancy Balls Ornament, and this is from Tin Can Knits, by the way. I'll put the link to that down below. Yeah, and it's cute.
It is. It's very cute.
Yeah, and I just did it with 2 colors, but clearly, you could do it. I have too many things in my hand. You could obviously do it with more. Mm-hmm. That would be, super cute. So I still like printing things. I know it uses up ink. I get it. But the thing is with this was once you put it in your binder, you have it. And you're going to have it for decades even.
Yep. So let me ask you this. So when you are working off of a pattern, because I'll then carry it around in my sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And I use the painter's tape or washi tape and move my tape up. Because I like my my magnetic board with the thing, but sometimes when you put that in your bag or your backpack and you take it with, sometimes things get a little shifty. And so I would prefer the painter's tape or washi tape, and then I just put that tape above the line I'm working on. Now, Tracy at Needlepoint Joint, in our last podcast with her, we were talking about doing Fair Isle knitting, and the reason that it's good to get in the habit of putting your tape above the line that you're working on is because, here's why. The reason that you put it above the line you're working on is because with Fair Isle knitting, if you put it above like this, and now you're working on row 4, if I could hold it correctly, you can see the rows that have come before. and you can see how the colors will stack on each other. Like if you're knitting something that has a pyramid shape, for example, you know if you're off. Whereas you need to see how it's going to work with the row that you've just completed. So if you put your tape below and you read right above your tape, you can't see what you've already done on your chart. So that's why she makes the point, if you're using washi tape, painter's tape, or highlighter tape, place the tape on the row above and you're reading right below the edge. Yeah. So I have always done it that way just because that's how I learned, but I never knew the reason. I just have always done it that way.
Makes a lot more sense that way.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So you're a printer. You like to print your patterns too, don't you?
I am a pattern printer as well. Now, and I find it interesting. I'm also a paper book reader.
Yes.
So you have like people that prefer Kindle and people that prefer paper, and I am a paper preferred reader. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it either. Too?
Maybe, but I think it depends for me. It depends on what it is. Like my kids each have their own Kindle, and sometimes that's been super convenient because we live 25 miles from town. And so if they need a book, or like for literature class, if they're going to read a novel, but our local library doesn't even have it, and we don't want to wait 2 weeks for interlibrary loan, then we'll go ahead and get it on the Kindle because it's more convenient and they need to start their work. They might have to start their work, right? And we can't wait. Or however, having said that, I don't think people will say, oh, well, it's a generational thing. I mean, look at, right? I'm gray and whatever. However, my kids though also prefer a paper actual book. They do. They will use their Kindles because it's convenient, and if we can't get a book, then we'll do it that way and they'll download it, and that's great. But they also prefer the paper actual book. Yeah.
My son prefers a paper book. My daughter prefers audiobooks, and she'll read a paper book a lot. She likes to do audiobooks because she likes to do art, create things and that stuff, and she can always listen while she does that.
Love audiobooks when I'm driving or when I'm on my walk, for sure. Absolutely. Yes. Yep, definitely. Love it. Or podcasts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know I've talked about Anne several times, but check out her podcast. You might have listened to a couple. Yeah.
I'm working my way through.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you get to the part where she goes to Shetland, the interviews are fantastic that she has with the Fair Isle knitters in Shetland.
So I have listened to the one that tells where she went. Mm-hmm. I have not gotten to the one where she interviews the folks, but we talked about things you can do when you're not knitting that have to do with knitting. So I drive a lot for my job, and podcasts are fantastic.
So what are some of your favorites?
So obviously there's one right here that I am preferable to.
Well, you do listen to it, or do you just like play it in the car, or?
No, so in the car, I'll do the voice ones.
Where it's audio only.
I've listened to a couple books by the Yarn Harlot. I've enjoyed hers so very, very
She's
much.
a riot. Stephanie Pearl-McPhee, we'll put links down below. Her books are fantastic. She's so funny.
And they're relatable too, because she talks about when you first join the land of knitting, if you're a visitor or a resident, and how to tell the differences between each. And it's really funny because I listened to it a while ago, and then I noticed, I was somewhere and I was looking at, it was a store, and they had these sweaters, and I thought, oh, I could make that, and that was one of the things she talks about, being a resident, that whole piece. So that's neat. I like to listen to her. Thank you so much for tuning us into Anne, because I have enjoyed her podcast.
Yep, link down below. Anne Frost of I Thought I Knew How podcasts. You can find her on iTunes or whatever podcast player that you use. And her website is IthoughtIKnewHow.familypodcasts.com. Yeah, links down below. But Anne's podcasts are great. I've enjoyed all of them, and now I wish they came out every day instead of twice a month or weekly. I forget what schedule she's on, but they're great. There's some other knitting related podcasts too. Some of them I found a couple. I haven't found any I particularly like as well as Anne's, but
I've the Vogue knitting one.
oh, do I not know? Maybe I don't know about that one.
Oh, I have I'll if you pardon me looking down, I'll have to see if I can figure out, because I think it's called Vogue Knitting or Vogue Knitting Live. It's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look it up.
They have interviewed some designers, and those were really interesting because I was on my drive and listening for about an hour, and that was a really cool one that I like.
Yeah, it makes your drive go by more quickly.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. So
pardon me looking down, trying to find it. If I knew how to work my phone better, it's like,
we'll get the link and we'll put it down below. But then there's also, the video podcasts that, lots of people listen or watch, Grocery Girls, and their podcasts are pretty long, but they're super funny. And one thing that I was doing during the fall, like when I was doing all the canning and everything during the fall, and I was just in the kitchen a lot, I would prop up my ancient iPad in the windowsill and I would have that on while I was in the kitchen. Right. Or like while you're folding laundry or whatever.
That's what I do. I do that in the kitchen. Yarn Hoarder, if you've ever watched her.
I have not.
She's fantastic. She's real. I like people that are real. But Yarn Hoarder.
They're just like you and me.
Yep, very much so. She loves washcloths. She loves washcloths too. She has an Instagram challenge that she's done for the last 2 years. She tries to do a washcloth a week for the whole year. Yeah. And then when she does them, she like names them, the numbers, and she just does a plain one, but she does them while she's watching movies. So when she does her podcast, she'll show you her stack, and then she'll like go through all the movies that she watched. So you know which ones are good and which ones aren't very good. So she saves you time.
What's interesting, somebody I recently found that I really, really enjoy. Her name is Gigi Made It. I love her.
I have heard about that, but I have not seen
fantastic. Her name is Gay Glaspie, I think. Okay. I'll put a link down below. She loves orange. It's all about the orange. Everything is orange, and she's just delightful. And she was recently on Lion Brand Yards, their show with their host person. Her name is Shira. I think I forget her name. But anyway, I've started following Gigi on Instagram, and I really enjoy her posts. They're very uplifting. They're very inspirational. It's all about, believing in yourself. And her catchphrase, how we say you're the boss of your knitting.
Yes.
#BossKnitter. Her thing is watch your mouth. Meaning, and at first I thought, what do you mean? Like, don't.
No.
What she means is be careful about your self-talk. And be careful about that because you're believing what you tell yourself. Both sides of that coin, right?
Yeah.
So I just love her. I love her Instagram, and her YouTube is really cool too. So check her out. Put links down below. Shout out to Gigi Made It.
Yay. Tell me about your Rhinebeck sweater. So Christy Glass Knits started many, many years ago. Went to Rhinebeck, and one of her podcasts is always tell me about your Rhinebeck sweater, which I found really, really cool because I love the stories behind people's knitting. I love knitting and I love the finished product, but what goes into it and the reason why people sometimes do what they do and the stories, because I don't know, to me, this sounds silly, but to me, sometimes knitting is so much more than knitting. It's relationships, and it's friendships, and the things you tell yourself. It's overcoming certain challenges and perseverance, and you could probably tie a lot of really good life attributes to knitting.
Yes, absolutely. And that's it. We know that it's more than just knitting. We know that it's all, and you can say that about any craft or any learning process, right? But anyway, so check those out. Those are definitely worthwhile podcasts, both audio and YouTube video podcasts, definitely worthwhile of your time. And a cool thing to do, if you're cooking, folding laundry, anything, if you get to participate in that goodness, even if you're not able to physically knit yourself. So some of the other things, let's learn so much. Or let's talk about organizing your stash.
Oh, well, okay, so you learn so much. So I was not knitting the other day. I read the front page article on Ravelry, and it was easy ways to upload to your stash. And
Right.
it truly was a much easier way than what I had thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really easy. I can do that. I liked being able to take the time to read the articles and then put it into action. So that was cool.
Yeah. And uploading your stash, like, so if you have a skein of yarn, if this is just sitting on my desk, if you had this, you could, you could upload, take a decent photograph and upload this to your stash. And you're thinking, well, why would I do that? Well, sometimes you forget what you have. And when you go and look at a pattern on Ravelry, the tabs that go across the top, it will say yarn suggested yarns or yarn ideas or one of those tabs. And if you click that, it will tell you the yarns you have that would work for that pattern. And so if you upload your stash to Ravelry, then it will tell you which yarns you have that will work with that pattern.
So you get on the pattern part and then you click the tab on the top?
Yeah, you want me to show you?
Oh. Okay.
All right, so we go to Ravelry. Okay, so let's look at the Baby Surprise Jacket by Elizabeth Zimmerman. That's just a fingering weight yarn, and I happen to know that I have a crap ton of sock yarn. So I knew that it would tell me, right, because I have a lot of sock yarn. So see across the top here where it says yarn ideas?
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah, now look, there's 32 matches. If I click this box that says only yarns in my stash.
Yeah. And then you can see it, so you can see how it drapes. You can see,
Okay. So these are yarns that I have in my stash. So far, it's telling me that I have socks that rock. This yarn has been used 312 times for that pattern, not by me, obviously. Nice. But these are the colors that I have already put into the system. These are some other colors or types of yarn. So I have a skein of Cherry Tree. I have actually 2 skeins. One in dusk. One in
my gosh, I'm gonna have to put all my yarn in. I put my new stuff in, but I'm gonna have to put all my stuff in.
Right, that's the point. And then when you create a project page, you can just tell it, use this yarn from my stash, and it will auto-populate.
That's the part that I struggled with. Okay,
let's go add project. And let's say I want to do that, Baby Surprise Jacket. Okay, so I'm typing this in, okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I could name the project, I could name it Baby Joe's Jacket, whatever. And I'm entering the pattern name, and it's going to continue. It's going to find that, and it's going to ask me which one. So I'm going to choose this one because, yes, that's the correct Elizabeth Zimmerman pattern. Now, I add the needles. Now, yarn, if I say use stash yarn.
That's where it was. Yeah. Okay.
And then I can go pick whichever one I want to use. Let's say I want to use this one.
And then I don't have to do it in. Okay, that's where I missed.
It auto-populates right here.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's perfect.
Right. So the point is that you could close without saving. Right. So the point is you could use a lot of your not knitting time to organize your stuff. And when I said organize my stash, what I actually meant was like physically go get into the bins and organize my stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like physically deal with this mess here and actually organize.
I finally broke down and got tubs, and I tried to put like baby yarn in one tub and sock yarn in another tub. But recently I acquired some more sock yarn, and my sock yarn tub is full, so then I had to stash it somewhere else.
So the Yarn Harlot one time wrote a blog. This is years and years ago. I started following her blog like, I don't know, 12 or 14 years ago, a long time. One of her earlier entries a long time ago was creative. She went around her house and took pictures of everywhere she has yarn stashed. And it's like behind the wine bottles, there was a skein of something. Under the sink in the tampon box, there was this.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
How you go about hiding things. So the other thing that we recently did, I say we because I had to have help. My kids, like I used to have a whole bunch of needles, just random straight needles that were my grandmother's, circular needles, like crappy circular needles that kind of has the bamboo and just the plastic tubing, like horrible, like where you snag on the joins, awful things like that. And I had all this stuff like in a shoebox and then in the bottom of a junk drawer. I mean, just, it was like a bird's nest of nastiness. So I pulled the drawer out and I told one of my kids, I bribed them basically to get out the needle gauge and like figure out what was what.
Oh my gosh.
Organize it all.
That's a terrible job. That's a terrible job.
But you know what we did, and I might have to get up and go get it. What we did was I went to Sportsman's Warehouse. I don't know if you have that in Illinois, but it's kind of like, I mean, it's not as big as Bass Pro Shop, but you can find these online as well. But it's a binder. And it has, so what this is for, these are like heavy duty Ziploc things. What this is for like those rubbery, gooey bait worms that people fish with, like people bass fish with. Yeah. But you can organize your stuff.
So do you have yours organized by size of needle, or do you mess with like 16, 24, 36? What do you do?
Well, with these, I have not. So this first one, these are zeros, I think. And then I have ones, US ones. I organize them by millimeters. So this is 2.5 millimeter, 2.25, and 2.0, and so forth. Now, I don't have every size in here, but these are just the weird stray ones, right?
That's a great idea.
Like, these are the giant ones that I make. These are the 13s that I made those felted clogs with. Right. However, now I have my set of interchangeable needles that are, they're all together and they come in a case. So
yeah, mine are
these
a
are
mess.
The stray ones.
Mine are a mess in my drawer, and I've looked at like knitting ones like that, and they're kind of expensive. So I bet the fishing, and they wouldn't fit the gigantic needles either. So
yeah, get the fishing ones. And from what this is pretty jam packed. And then I have some like random junk in here, like just random things that I didn't know where else to put, and we had to clean off the kitchen table. So yeah,
something you can do when you're not knitting.
Organize your crap.
Organize your stuff.
Yeah, but this is handy. Oh, show me that.
You could sew. So if you can't knit, you can sew project bags. Last podcast, I showed this in fabric form. So I made 2 of these. Oh, I'm so excited. One of my son's teachers is a knitter. And so and one of his really, really cool teachers. So she's getting a project bag. Isn't the inside of that pretty?
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And what kind of bottom does it have?
Oh, it's just a box bottom.
Well, don't say just a box bottom, because like I don't sew that. I would be like, I don't have a clue what it starts. I don't know how to do that.
It can fit the beginning of a shawl. This is like the medium size. My little knitter friends group, for the past like 3 or 4 years, I've made a project bag every year. So last year they got one that a sweater could fit in, and this year this will be a bulky size hat, couple pair of socks, ton of washcloths. Yeah. So you can sew for your knitting.
Yes. So we can organize patterns, print patterns, organize your stash, both digitally and physically.
Yes.
Organize your needles and sew for your project bags. Yeah, for your knitting. I don't really sew. I don't really do that.
So, not so, but so.
Not so much.
There's also stitch dictionaries.
Books. Oh, and graph paper. Some of my favorite things. There's lots of stitch dictionaries. So one of the ones that I have used, and I can't remember if I got this used. I don't remember even where I got this. I've had it for years. And one of my kids was looking through it. So I don't want to take these out right now. But it's called the Encyclopedia of Knitting, 150 stitch patterns and 22 projects. So when you look through here, there's lots and lots of things, right? That's just a random. Does that make you happy?
It does. It's like a big coffee table book. I have to find out which book it was. So before I could knit more than just a washcloth, I would go to this is so funny. I used to go to the library and I'd go to the knit section and I would just check out the stitch dictionaries.
Yeah.
And then I'd leave it on my coffee table for the next 2 weeks. And when I was sitting in the living room, I would literally just go through and like, oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah. Funny. And so the graph paper goes with that because, like, let's say you wanted to design your own something. Hi, dude. He just came to see what we're doing. Let's say you wanted to design your own something. You would want to, like if you're just knitting a vanilla sock, for example.
Totally have to leave that one in.
He muted me. He's like, shut up, Mom. He's getting big.
He is. He does not want to stay right there, though. He's resigned. You could see it in his face. Okay, I'm not going anywhere.
For a minute. Okay, go to the pie. His kitty pie's over here on my desk. No, you can't stand on the mouse. Now he's trying to drink my water. Okay, now he's going to the pie. All right. I have cat hair on my nose. Okay. So let's say you're going to knit a vanilla sock. But maybe you don't want it to be vanilla and you just want to put in a pattern, a simple something, but you know your cast on number. Or if you're knitting toe up, you know what number you've increased to from the toe. So if you've increased up to 64, 72, 80, whatever, then that's what the graph paper would be about, is figuring out like what is your chart? What's your chart going to be? So if you had your stitch dictionary, you're like, oh, I really like this lace motif, but how many stitches is it? And how many repeats do I have? You can just work that out. You see what I mean? Or whether you're designing your own shawl, for example, or, you know, you could do a garter stitch, trapezoidal, or sorry, parallelogram kind of a shawl, like when we did the Inara wrap. It's just on the bias, and you know how many stitches you have across, and you can just look through stitch dictionaries and you design your own thing, you know. So
choose your own adventure.
Yes. So this is a good one. Of course, this one's a little bit older, but I love the Vogue knitting book.
That's on my Christmas list, on my Amazon wish list this year from my family.
This one's older. I think this is an older version. I don't recall what the copyright is on this one. But you can, I don't know. It's been around a long time. Anyway, same kind of thing where there's some how-to stuff or technique things in the beginning, but it is full. It is full of like stitch dictionary kind
That
of
just
stuff.
makes me happy. Like a big stitch on a page and then whatever it is and all the pages
really
like that.
You know, the illustrations are decent.
They
Now,
are.
the other ones that I wanted to talk about, and I don't know who has it. I think I lent this one to somewhere, or maybe one of my kids has it in their room. I could not find it. Is the Barbara Walker Treasury of Stitches. I'll put a link down below. There's I think 3 or 4 volumes of the Barbara Walker Treasury of somethings, Treasury of Knitting. I will find it and put links in the video description. I think the one that I have a couple of them. I think it's either buried under wool on my desk or someone has it in their room. But the Barbara Walker ones you can find out easily on Amazon, and they're well worth the money. Oh. And then, of course, there's the Japanese stitch dictionaries, right?
So what's the difference between, tell me more.
Well, I don't own any of them yet. It's on my my wish list as well, but some of the Japanese stitch dictionaries are amazing.
So your Amazon wish list, I just thought, oh my gosh, that's something else you can do when you can't knit, is make your knitting wish list.
Create a whole wish list titled Knitting Wishes.
Yes.
Oh, you could spend hours.
And give it to your family.
Birthdays, Christmas.
Yes. We're easy people to please.
Yes. Gift certificates to your local yarn store. I mean, I will always plug my local yarn store before Amazon. However, sometimes you can't get what you want locally.
But I check there first.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then I have started, if I check there first, well, I don't really have a local yarn store, but I mean a smaller, independently owned, you know what I'm saying?
I was going to say, I'm going to get on a mini soapbox about that, because it's important that we continue to do that and even make those long distance calls. I have there were 3 local yarn shops. I have 1 in town and then 2 that I would go visit, and they're both 2 hours away. And the ones, like, It's December. November, I was in the town 2 hours away, and stopped in, and it was their very last day of business.
Oh no.
And then my other one just put up a thing that they're shutting up.
Really?
They're closing. Yep, closing
Your
down.
local, the one in your town, or
Not the one in my town. The one in my town is A-okay. The other one that I loved that was 2 hours away. I travel a lot for my work,
Right,
and so
right.
so what I would always do is try to pop in there, and I had traveled enough to the one place that I had built a relationship with her, and I think that's one of the neatest things about your local yarn shop. It's
for
more
sure.
than just yarn.
Right.
It's your community.
Right. And it's building those relationships. I mean, it was fantastic that Tracy took the time to do that podcast with me and give us all little tips and hints for our upcoming knit along with the Fair Isle. You know, she teaches the Fair Isle classes at Needlepoint Joint, and she's good at what she does. And I have not taken her class, but I will one day. So, you know, my sister lives there. I'll go and visit her and take a class. Right.
Yes.
So.
And tell me, are those, tell me about the yarn, like the kits that she has. Have we talked about that yet?
We have not. Go watch the podcast with her, but some of them are up there. The traditional colors for the Harriet's hat are these 6. And we talked quite a bit about these colors. Well, we talked a lot about the reason you're going to want to use proper Shetland wool as opposed to superwash or anything else. Because, and I realize I'm probably beating a dead horse because we've talked about this like in 3 previous episodes. However, proper Shetland wool, it is not machine washable, nor was it meant to be. It is a little, I'll say crispy. It's a little more rough than you might prefer. It's not going to be like 100% merino squishy scarf or around. It's meant to be worked with Fair Isle, so it's a little bit grippy, so that way when you grip and when it knits together, it grips the stitch next to it. So that, like, for example, if you were to accidentally slip a few stitches off the needle, it's not going to just dissolve. It will hold its shape, and it's meant to do that. Right. It is Shetland wool by nature is not as, the breed of sheep is not as soft as merino or Rambouillet, for example. But they're very hardy. And the Shetland sheep that live on the Shetland, I mean, they're very hardy breed. My mother had Shetland sheep for years, and they are very hardy breed, as are the Icelandic sheep. And so that's, the traditional wool is advantageous for this purpose. So, right. I don't know how you would do with it next to your skin, but what I do know is that sometimes when people have a reaction, it's because of, it could be the type of breed of sheep, it could be the way that it's processed, it could be the dyes that are used, it could be the milling process itself. You're just gonna have to see whether you think it'll work for you. So this is the 6 colors that are used in the traditional, what's pictured on the pattern. Needlepoint Joint, you know, as we talked about in the last podcast episode with Tracy, they have kits available for pre-order. So get your order in sooner rather than later. They're going to do another big order from Jameson's and Smith's in Shetland and have that sent. So you need to hurry if you want to have your yarn in hand before we start the knit along on January 1st. So, right. Tracy put together some fantastic alternative colorways. Like, you know, if the blues and the pop of yellow isn't your thing, she's got some great alternative choices. And I partook of that. So I have a couple more color combos coming as well. And then if people are wondering, the pattern itself, you'll need to download from MRI Mackers. This is all, the pattern sales are to benefit the Shetland MRI Scanner fundraiser. So you can read more about that. Anyway, so when you're not knitting though, you can definitely be planning things with stitch dictionaries, graph paper, organizing your stash, all the things. Oh, the other thing I don't know if you are aware of is while you're organizing your stash, you might run across a skein of yarn, you know, that I've had stuff in there for, that I forgot I had, that have been in there for maybe literally 15 years. And then you're like, oh, and you're, you know, write down, maybe put a string tag on what you might want to use that for, you know.
I have a friend that stores hers by project. So she'll get those gigantic Ziploc baggies so she can see them.
Right.
And she will put like sweater quantities and stuff is what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Because she, like, you know, like we want to support the local yarn store. So once a year we go to a different local yarn store. It's our field trip every year with our little knitting group.
Yeah.
And then she'll buy a sweater quantity and she puts it and then labels the bag. And so when she stores them, she stores some of those as well.
That's cool. That's a good idea. So then you don't forget what you had in mind.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Right. That's probably what I would do. That's, I'm sure, what I have done is forgotten. Wait, why did I buy that?
I tried really hard. I was telling myself that I wasn't going to knit anymore. I wasn't going to purchase any more yarn unless I knew exactly what I had it for. And then the local yarn store 2 hours away from me was going to close its doors, and
then there's a sale, or you go on vacation.
and I wanted to support her in that, you know, before it's like 50% off or whatever. So really, when I went to go buy yarn, I was helping.
Of course. Yeah. And you got a good deal. And that's all right. And that's a great deal. Right. If you're recovering from surgery or doing something, you know, there's lots of things you can do to carry on with the whole knitting mojo. Yeah, there's lots of things you can do to carry on with that. So we'll put down below our links to favorite things. For sure.
Favorite things? Can I show
talk
you
about
something I found?
I know you've got some favorite things to show.
Well, okay, so I found these on Etsy. Oh my gosh, they are stinking adorable. Because look at these.
That's fantastic.
That says you're knit worthy. This one, look at that.
I use the good yarn.
But look on the back. This is so stinking cool.
That's very cool.
Oh.
You need to give us the link where you found that.
I was looking for something tiny to stick into the project bag for the little knitting happy thing. And so I absolutely loved these. Ad knits. It's on Etsy.
Gift tags for knitters. Cardstock tag. That's awesome. They
were so stinking cute. And I love the part on the back because when you do something really nice for somebody special, it has the care piece on the back. Yes.
And I always would try to, like, when I knitted things for a charity auction or whatever, I would always try to put that, you know, string tag, or I would take one of my business cards and punch a hole in it and then put some of the leftover yarn and like tie it on there. But not everybody has business cards that they want to do that with. So that's a great thing. Ad knits on Etsy.
Yeah, those were really cute. I saw those.
Super cute.
Yeah.
I want to see what else you have there. I know you have yarn you're going to show us.
I do have yarn. Because when I said I wasn't going to buy any more yarn, then yeah. But
then a good deal came along. Oh. That is a happy color.
It is. Happy Feet Splash, Plymouth yarn, pink and blues, and man, that stuff just pops.
You're going to have a good time knitting. So are you going to knit a cowl or sweater, or not a sweater, sorry, like a little shawl, or are you going to do socks?
I do not know yet.
Don't have to.
No, and it's pink and there's 2 skeins. It might be something for my daughter.
You have probably close to 700 or 800 yards there if it's 2 skeins. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And I got, the socks that I did for Jim, she had more of that. So I bought 2 more of those because it's a really nice neutral. And then.
Yay.
Yep.
Now that's festive.
Yep. That made me think of Christmas. So maybe
What
Christmas.
Are those? What yarn was that?
Oh, this is just a Cascade Yarn Heritage.
Okay.
75% superwash merino, 25% nylon.
So are you going to knit Christmas socks with that?
Wouldn't they be the cutest little stripy socks?
Yes.
I really think they would. They would almost look like sock monkey socks if it were brown. But I like it very much.
Those are very cute.
Yeah. That was when I said that I wasn't buying any more yarn, and it no longer fits in the tub, so I had to stick it in a different tub. But I did stash it all. So now I'm excited about going back to stash it from what I learned.
You mean on Ravelry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I should be more specific.
Well, you said stash it. I'm like, does that mean shove it in a drawer somewhere? Or
yeah,
you mean
wherever it will fit?
You mean you actually took a good photograph and uploaded it to your stash page. Now, that's the other thing people can do. If you run across yarn that you've had for years and years, and you're like, well, maybe you're not digging it anymore, or your taste has changed as far as colors are concerned, one thing you can do is you can mark that stash as in your stash, all used up, or because if you used it on a project, then it will show as all used, or buy, sell, trade. Now, you can mark it as you're willing to sell it and then put a price on there, and people will send you a Ravelry message. Maybe you have a colorway that they really, really need to finish a project they already started and the dye lot numbers match up. I don't know. Or maybe you're just not feeling it anymore and you just want to de-stash it and get rid of it.
I brought my children's Christmas stockings that I did not make. I need to scoot back a tiny bit so you can see the whole thing. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, that's lovely.
Look at those. They're so beautiful. This was way before I was a knitter.
Yeah.
And what she told me, because she had said, if you ever have another child, and before I knew what was going on, she said, I saved the yarn and I wrote down what I did, because I don't think she had a pattern. She just followed particular,
or
pieces.
she had motifs that she plugged into the different sections, maybe.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So that's
really cute. That's so cute.
These are I absolutely love these.
Oh, that's darling.
They're huge. And I love them. Yeah.
And
that's what I had.
They hold a lot of stuff.
They do not get filled in that way.
We usually do, when I was growing up, I don't know why this was, we always got a calendar in our stockings. I don't know why. Oh, we always got a calendar. So I started doing that. We just started that last year with my kids where, like things I know that they like I would just go and find a calendar that has pictures of a particular thing. Like my one daughter really loves cats. So it was a silly kitten calendar. And you see what I mean? Like, or somebody's into elephants or whatever. So it was more tailored to what I know they like, not just like the national park ones that you get at the bank.
Yes, no, I know exactly. I've gotten my daughter loves calendars.
Yeah.
And my parents got my son like one of those joke a day calendars.
Oh, right, where you like the tear off one a day thing. Yep. Cool. So they ask for that. They actually put them up near their desks as we school from home, but they put them up near their desks and they write down like due dates or things that are important specific to just them and their school day or their grade or whatever. And they both put that on their Christmas wish list. This year they want calendars again. So I'm like, oh, cool.
That's awesome.
That, and we always buy those chocolate oranges, where you go thwack and you.
No, I know. Isn't that terrible?
You don't know about the chocolate orange?
I've heard of it, but I've not experienced one. So you go thwack in it.
Okay, so it's made by a company called Terry's, and it comes in a cardboard box, and it's a ball of chocolate.
Okay.
But it's like kind of orange flavored chocolate. So you can get milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and it comes in foil, and you unwrap it, and it's kind of all stuck together, but it's supposed to be like orange slices. And you have to thwack it on the counter to make the pieces come apart in orange slices. You've never done that?
No.
I remember one time I made a Facebook post about, I had a chocolate orange that was just mine. It was only mine. And I had hidden it in, like hiding your yarn, right? I had chocolate. I had hidden it in the, like the cupboard above the fridge, like where the platter is that you put your turkey on or whatever, up there. And I went and got it, and it was late at night and everyone else was in bed, but I'm like, I can't thwack this because someone will hear it. Or the bark or something. I went outside on the porch and went whack outside on the sidewalk. I just whacked my chocolate outside so no one would hear.
That's funny.
Well, I didn't want to share.
Oh no, not been, I do remember a time when my children were very, very tiny when I think I ate a couple of things like in the bathroom or like behind a cupboard, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to savor it and eat it quickly all at the same time does not always mesh.
No, you just gotta wait till everyone's literally unconscious. Then you can enjoy it while you're doing your Ravelry work. You can enjoy it by yourself while everyone's asleep. Yeah, isn't that true though? I don't know why I got off on the chocolate orange thing. Oh, Christmas stockings. That's why. Usually there's that in your stocking, the chocolate. And
we always had nuts.
Really?
Like with the shell. Yeah, with the shell.
Oh, where you have to like get out the cracker thing?
Yeah.
Or did you have the proper nutcracker?
We did not. We had a cracker thing. We have not put them in our children's stockings, but in my stocking there was always nuts and fruit. I don't know if anybody does fruit. Like there was always.
Yeah. When I was little, we had Right.
We always got something unusual in an unusual fruit in our stocking. My dad was a manager at a grocery store.
Oh.
So like we got pomegranates, and it was before the days where you could get like pomegranates and stuff like that, an Asian pear. So
something that was kind of felt exotic.
Yeah, like the star fruit things. We always got some weird kind of. Now, I thought it was cool, but now that I'm saying it on the podcast, we always got some weird kind of produce in our stocking.
I remember when I was little, there was always like, do you know the Whitman's chocolate? And then there was the little boxes, like the small, the little boxes. They only had like 4 or 6. Yeah, the little ones. We always got those. And now, as an adult, my family knows to give me the big box. And it's only mine. No one else gets, and I can make it last until like February if I want, which it never does, but you know.
You got to stick it in the cupboard way above the fridge.
You then only get it out when everyone's asleep. Is that about cover what to do when you're not knitting?
It does. I have some new ideas. I'm so excited. I'm going to look at the Gigi podcast. I learned a new thing how to do on Ravelry. I'm going to stash the rest of my yarn.
Planning is always good. Yeah. And you have some podcasts to catch up on. Yeah.
I do. I have 2.
And I didn't realize that I could listen. I have a couple of the Yarn Harlot books, actual books that I've read, but I didn't realize I could get them on like Audible or whatever. So I'm going to have to do that. Does she read them herself or does someone else now narrate them?
She does.
That's fantastic. On my bucket list is to see her in person.
That would be pretty cool.
Funny. Totally.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
About things we should do when we're not knitting. Join us for the ornament knit along the rest of this month. So get your yarn together. Be sure to join us on the Ravelry group and the podcast group. But the knit alongs are being hosted over on the Ravelry group. So links for all that's down below. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.